Do you want to do the review of the respiration, or do you want to finish the phonation chapter right now?
Let's finish all the things,
Let's finish all the things.
and then we can like
Okay.
review the things.
Great. So then
Once we
next,
have
so on Thursday we'll have review, and then on Tuesday we'll have review 2. Okay? Because then we'll have the test.
And then the
on
subsequent
Thursday. Okay?
But,
Yeah.
but Tuesday's also review.
I think so.
Bad.
Yeah. Well, we have to get through the phonation stuff, which we'll try to do today. And then we'll have to review all the respiration stuff and all the phonation stuff, which is why it's gonna take those kind of classes, okay? Is that cool?
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh, I have the attendance sheet.
Oh,
Do you have
Okay, let's talk about the larynx model for a little bit, actually, just so we didn't do it for no reason, right? Okay, can I use yours, Cody,
Yeah.
to demonstrate? Okay. So it is beautiful. Look at this beautiful larynx. So we all have these in our throats, right? They're like this.
they're about this size.
Yeah,
Okay.
not that big. Mine's a little bigger than that. You know, so, yeah, it's tiny.
For some reason, I thought of it being.
Well, yours is probably smaller. I mean, it's like, right? It's like
Mine's average.
average. I mean, like, this is closer than making it out of a sheet of paper that's this big, right? So, okay. So when we had the TA muscles, which are which ones? Do you guys remember? Thyroid
Sure, the
rhythms.
chest voice ones.
Yes.
Those are the chest
Sticky
voice ones, and they're the ones that are your vocal folds, right?
Yes.
So in this larynx, where are they?
In there.
They're attached to the thyroid and then the arrhythmia.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
Okay. So they go like in between here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we could like make these with string and everything, but it'd be really annoying. And that's our vocal folds. So they like open and close with the arytenoids articulate them, right?
Would that be? Are they then? The vocal ligament is inside them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So the vocal ligament is the thing that attaches.
The little curtain
And-
strings.
Yeah, they're like the string. If we put a string in it, it'd be the string. It'd be the ligament. And the TA muscle is the actual muscle that makes up the. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. And so those, like they do this, and remember we learned all those arytenoid muscles about how it makes the triangle like come together and all that.
And
Yep.
your noise control. Yes, right.
The arytenoids only control if your folds are together or not together. Okay. Does that make sense? No. Okay. So then the thickness of your of the TA muscle. So the thyroid arytenoid muscle, which is the actual vocal folds, that thickness is, if it's thicker, you know, it's like lower, right? This is not. Right, because like a bigger string produces a lower sound, right? Same thing, okay? Then there's the other muscle called the cricothyroid, which is where?
Between attached to the
Yeah,
crico.
so it's the cricoid and the thyroid. And what it does is it makes the thyroid tilt down onto the cricoid, right? Like, can we all imagine how that goes? So that's the one that stretches your TA muscles, because this will stay there, and this, when it goes down, stretches farther, okay? So it makes them thinner and more taut, which makes them higher pitches, right? Head voice, which is also your head voice, okay? So those are the two, they're antagonistic muscles, right? So this one makes it higher, and the vocalis strictly makes it chest voice. Does that help to do this and talk about all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is what they all look like, so everybody's got it. Cool. So put that on your shelf, treasure it forever. All right. Let's do phonation.
Thank you for giving me pretty things. You do? I've never in 1,000 years.
Put you in
No.
It'll give me not the same.
My voice feels like this. I make that. It sounds like
That cricoid tip, though.
that crack like
So,
we got this far, right?
Water is so good.
We didn't talk about the swallowing muscles, I think. Is that correct?
Don't make weird just don't. I can't
It's
do
the only thing I know how to
We
do.
it. You didn't sign it.
talked about the posterior cricoid that opens up, right?
So, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We
And
definitely.
then I don't think we talked about the swallowing muscles.
Yes, that's right.
Epiglottis.
We stopped.
Oh, this bit.
Because you were saying that the people who belt use these and we're not supposed to.
No, they can.
Right, that's what you said.
Yeah, right. Good. So these are the, you,
I mean, technically anything is allowed, just not everything is.
right, like it's all natural. It's just, it's about how we do it and what's most efficient for the style that we're using, right? Okay, so the aryepiglottic muscle, this one right here. That's the one with the arytenoid and the epiglottis, and it closes the epiglottis while we swallow,
Yeah.
right? So maybe we could talk about this. And the thyroepiglottic muscle is this one, which opens it. Yeah?
Okay.
Can you all see them on those diagrams? This one goes this way, because when it constricts, it pulls this down. And this one goes this way, because when it contracts, it opens it up. Right? Some people look confused. Are we confused? No. Okay. All right, false vocal folds. Did we talk about that? Onset and offset. Okay, we didn't talk about this. Okay, so the onset, what you have to do is have vocal folds be adducted, closed, and increase the breath pressure. It must be high enough to do the pressure to phonate, which is the PTP. We talked about, remember going pa, and we stop.
If it's too high, that's when it's not.
And too high is when it's pressed, right? Pa, 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 pa. Okay. And you can actually measure all this stuff. I think I'm actually doing a study about this next year. Okay. Types of onset, glottal and hard onset. Tight onset results in a glottal stroke, right? When we go up, up. That's hard onset. Yeah. Can be too bangy and cause damage. PTP is too high in the adduction. And then breath flow. So you close your vocal folds and then you phonate, right? So, then we get the glottal stroke, right? Cool. All right. Then we get an aspirate, breathy onset, which means you have a breathy start, like an H. So it's breath flow and then adduction. So you go, like that. So that's another kind of onset. This is pretty easy, and we all kind of know. But you just have to know the names for them, right? Balanced onset, that's the ideal one. Breath flow and adduction at the same time, and you go, right?
Some people call it coordinated onset, right?
Coordinate, yep. There's a million terms, but I think balanced is probably the more common one
Okay.
for things. So that's the one, I think.
Nobody saw that, I think.
No, nobody did. All right. So hard off. So offsets have the same thing. So offset is when we stop phonating, right? We can have a hard offset, which stops the sound with force. Can sound gravelly or grunting. Can be a dramatic choice, but can be dangerous, right? So if you're like something like that, that's a hard offset. People do it in opera sometimes. It's like when you're being really dramatic, you know. Scarpia, let's just do that. Yeah. Whoever sings Scarpia always does it. Alex will know all about this. Oh God. Aspirate. Airflow after the tone sounds like a pop singer. So like when you're like,
That breath release though.
right. You know, it's all Britney Spears. Right, that thing. Okay. And balanced offset, that's the even mixture that we want, right?
So like a Yelpy offset like Colm Wilkinson would be,
I don't know what Colm Wilkinson is. Oh my
yeah.
God.
The original John Berlin is.
I don't know. That would be hard,
Who was that?
right?
Funny.
That'd be a hard offset,
Okay.
right? More, it's there's spectrum, right?
Yeah.
It's, so you don't get
It sounds like it would give the hard offset like effect, but that would feel like a balance.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's like styles, right? And there's a spectrum. It decides what you want to do. So you're not saying like the pop singer on the aspirate offset, you know, like what Britney Spears does. That's not like a bad thing. It's just a stylistic choice that we don't want to do in opera because people will be like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So flow phonation. Even production through a phrase, balanced onset and offset while singing is basically what it means. Okay, so you're not like singing pressed or singing breathy. Pressed phonation is too hard, breathy phonation is too airy. We talked about some of that, especially with the science stuff with the spectral slope and all that, right? And we all know why that. So when you're pressed, because your folds are together more, you get more harmonics and they hit harder, right?
Yeah.
And then when you're breathy, they're more loose and open, so you don't get as many harmonics and you don't get your singers forming, right? Cool. And that's it. That's also a reason why like a lot of Wagner singers and stuff have a propensity to push, because they want to have all the strong harmonics up in their singers formant so that they're louder. So that's what, because pressing actually does make you louder. It's just not the best thing, right? Makes sense? Okay. Good. Advanced concepts, oh guys. Okay, intensity, loudness control. Because airflow is faster, there's a greater tension in the muscles so that when the folds come back together, they come together harder, creating a louder clap, right? So that's how we're louder. Lip buzzes and clapping, faster ones are louder. So if we go, not as loud as going, right?
It also takes more pressure.
Yep, right. So it's the same with our vocal folds.
Yeah.
Basically what we're talking about. Thicker TA muscles, so if we're going, our lips aren't as tense, but if we do it harder, they're tenser, right? Which would be thicker TA muscles in our throat.
Yeah.
Yeah? Make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. So larger surfaces hitting make louder noises, right? So if we do like, right, so my hand is louder than one finger. Right, because there's more vibration in the resonance of the force resonance, because there's more surface area to it. Yeah? Awesome. Higher pitches are louder, sometimes they're 4 times as loud per octave, you know, like 6 decibels per octave. It kind of depends on which we all know that when we sing, right? Yeah, we all know our high notes are louder than our low ones. The close quotient, which is what again?
The percentage that it is closed versus open while you're pumping.
Right, yeah, and we measure it with the electric stuff, right? How long your folds are closed plays a big role. So the loudest is around 50 or 60% open. So slightly more open than closed is better, but that's better than like 30% or something like that, right?
The electric stuff you just talked about, that's when you run a current through the cords, and then when the switch is closed, that's how long. Got it.
I looked into buying that stuff to get you guys to try it, but it's like super expensive.
Dang it.
Sorry.
That's sweet of you though, thanks.
You can do it. If I ever get to like use it or something, I'll let you know. Okay. The optimal singing point is free tone coordinated between subglottal pressure, airflow, and laryngeal tension tautness. So you have to have some kind of tension to sing, right? Because you have to have muscles that are in antagonism in order to stretch your folds to get them all together. Now, tongue tension and jaw tension and all this tension, that's a totally different story, right? So, but we have to have tension. It's like we're holding our arm out, you know. We have to have tension to hold it there, otherwise it falls out.
Right.
But we don't have to hold it like this.
Right.
Yeah. So it's all a spectrum. McCoy talks about this stuff a lot more in depth if you want to read it. But that's okay. Okay, pitch control. Longer folds is a higher pitch, right? So they're more taut with our CT muscles. They're stretched. Because when it's longer, it's tighter, right? Ian, you look confused.
Oh no, sorry, that's my face.
Oh, okay. It's okay, it's my face too. It's, good. Shorter folds are lower pitch, right? So they're looser, they're thicker. I don't know if you guys have ever like tuned a guitar. No, I'm not the guitar. I tried that once when I was in high school. I tried to be Jimi Hendrix, but they taste really bad. Right, so the lower pitch, when the string is looser, it creates a lower pitch, and when it's tauter, it's higher. Yeah? Awesome. High notes and muscles. So CT, head voice, moves, folds to the proper pitch. The TA muscle folds to the proper thickness. So they're more, TA deals more with volume too. So if you were mixing them, okay, so if you're gonna have like a chest-head mix, the more your TA muscles are engaged with the thickness, that has to do with the loudness. Okay? Yeah, when they're thicker.
Can I ask like a teacher technique / physiology question?
Yeah.
When Dr. King says, well, if you want to be louder, you just need to open your mouth. Like, why is that true?
Because, why
Or
is
is
it, or is it true? Yeah, it is true. Okay, because you have a larger resonating space.
Oh,
And really, it's a lot of, because if I go, which one's louder?
the second one.
Right,
Yeah.
but I put the same kind of breath flow into it,
Yeah.
because it has more resonance in it.
Okay,
Okay, that has to do with the resonance. It's not so much about this stuff.
okay,
Does that make sense?
cool, yes.
Okay. There is a propensity for people to open their mouths, though.
Oh,
too.
for sure.
You know, I mean, so it's all about finding the balance of what works into your voice, which is what we're talking about. You know, there's all these extremes that we're trying to find what the middle is for each of us, right? And so this class is really just talking about what those extremes entail for different people. Good. So higher subglottal pressure, like when you have more push underneath you, you get louder notes, especially in lower parts of the range, and it causes TA muscles to tighten more, right? Because it has to hold the pressure that's underneath it. Because your glottis, your vocal folds are the only thing that stops the air from escaping your body, right? So if I go, you know, then I'm using my throat, but I have to keep it tighter if I want to have more pressure underneath, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like a valve, you know, if you're like opening up a valve on a hose or something. Okay, laryngeal tension is important to singing in tune. Without it, you would always sound flat, right? So you have to have antagonism between the cricothyroid and the thyroarytenoid muscles. Otherwise, you'll be out of tune. Does that make sense? Because you have to have it on both sides. Cool? Any questions? Is that advanced concepts enough for you guys? Okay. So, laryngeal elevation. There are 3 constrictor muscles that make your larynx rise. So we're talking about laryngeal elevation and depression now with our phonation stuff. So, you know, we always talk about high larynx and low larynx, right? That is a big thing to talk about. And because we all do kinds of different things, we'll talk about more when we talk about registration. These muscles are important, right? So there's 3 constrictor muscles in the neck. These are what help you swallow. Superior, middle, and inferior. Inferior constrictors connects to the size of the thyroid and can decrease its size and raise its position in the throat. So if you, it's inferior is this one right here. Okay, so when that contracts, it actually squeezes in your larynx from the back and makes it smaller. Okay, so when people belt, they actually use these muscles sometimes too. Okay, because it's all about getting the high pitches to be as in your chest voice as loud as possible. So if you make your larynx smaller, you get your formants up higher, right? Cool. Because younger singers' cartilage is not ossified and hardened, that's the cartilage is in our larynx, right? The inferior constrictor can easily manipulate the thyroid and act like the CT muscle and tilt the larynx. So you guys probably actually have a propensity to do this too. I know I did when I was 22 and 24, okay? But when you,
Not 23 though.
not 23, no, I went through a phase. So like when you squeeze it, it'll act like the CT muscle, right? It'll stretch the thyroid back and make the vocal folds tauter. Does that make sense? Okay. A lot of young people do that. And you can fake it because you can't feel like your larynx doesn't care if it's bent like that.
So what is the effect that it produces on the sound?
It makes it higher. So like if you're gonna talk about, like if you're young, like, and people were like, oh, Chris, maybe you're a baritone. They would think that because I'm singing like that.
Okay, right on. So okay.
Because I shorten my vocal tract, right?
Yeah.
So I raise all of my formants up, and then it'll sound like my voice is higher than it is.
Huh.
Okay.
It could. Okay, I'm just totally guessing here, but is this like why? I mean, aside from the fact that they're like 75, like Mick Jagger has to sing everything down like a whole step or something like that.
Mhm.
Because when he recorded these songs when he was like 22, he could do all that crap
Mhm.
up there, and now, okay, now
Sure.
this is like why.
He's
right?
also, it's part of the reason.
And he's been smoking and doing lots of
Yeah,
drugs
which
for-
is just like
yeah,
kills you.
yeah.
It's probably more that reason than the stuff. Yeah.
So like part of our training actually is to make sure that we don't continually fall into that habit, right?
Right.
Like, so we find our real voice
hmm
instead of like,
Absolutely.
got it.
And there are a million professional singers who do sing doing that. We can all think of them, right? So but we don't want to do that. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. That's why this is an advanced concept. Okay, so higher larynxes equal higher pitches and false voice types, right? That's why people can think, oh, you're a baritone that has like tons of high notes when you're young, but then when you're 35, you don't anymore. Because it's harder to do this and you're faking it. Okay?
Who is a well-known singer in your opinion who sings with their false voice?
I don't know. I'll think about it. Ask me next class. Okay.
Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau.
False voice? Maybe.
Controversial.
I mean, like it's.
Well, it also helped that he smoked a pack a day.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there are like tons of opera singers too.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Like in everything.
but we know like working singers. There's a lot of men get away with it, you know, or like tenors who sing lots of high notes. Sometimes sing like that because it's easy to make your voice do that if it's higher.
James Valenti.
I've performed with James Valenti.
You guys are doing that, yeah.
Do you are there?
You probably look like twins up on the stage.
It was
Oh my God,
hilarious
actually.
because
Yeah.
before we got on stage, we were like, dude, we actually could look each other in the eye.
Could it?
Dude.
Is it too taxing to do this on a regular basis, or could someone actually fuck themselves as a different voice type?
You can fuck yourself as a different voice type, but when your larynx ossifies, when it gets harder, it's a lot harder to do that because all of a sudden it doesn't want to bend as much and it feels really uncomfortable.
Hard to sustain past 30.
Right. Okay. So because your voice doesn't really settle until you're about 30 because of the ossification of all your cartilage. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Which is why your voice is so different when you wake up every day. Okay. Good.
Yay.
So all of this stuff you can go read in McCoy 118. Okay. So extrinsic laryngeal musculature. What time is it? Oh, we're really talking today. Let's try and do most of this. Okay. Extrinsic laryngeal musculature. So this is the stuff that's outside your larynx that affects what's inside your larynx.
So
Yeah.
the swallows are inside the larynx.
Huh?
The swallowing muscles we were just talking about are inside the larynx.
They're right in the back here.
Okay.
We're going to talk about like the stuff that's attached to the hyoid bone around the jaw and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So all these muscles are attached to the hyoid bone, except the constrictors. Okay. We talked about the hyoid bone. That's the one that sits above your larynx that everything hangs from, right? That's the only bone that actually exists in your larynx, in your vocal tract, right? Cool. So this is part of the reason why it's stupid to learn all of the origins and insertions, because all of these attach to the hyoid bone, and if you can't remember which one's which, it really gets messed up. Okay, so there's the constrictors we talked about, laryngeal elevators, makes you happy. So there's the thyrohyoid muscle, digastric, anterior and posterior, stylohyoid, see they're all hyoid, mylohyoid, geniohyoid, hyoglossus, laryngeal depressors is sternohyoid, omhyoid. Okay? So these are all the ones that move your larynx up and down, basically. So the constrictor muscles, we get the superior constrictor, which is up here. It attaches to the skull and the mandible. We're talking about this one right here. Narrows the pharynx to aid swallowing. These all help you swallow. They go, you know, like a snake swallows a mouse. Middle constrictor, hyoid bone, and the stylohyoid ligament. The styloid process is behind your ear. It's up here, like right there. Where'd that? There, we got it labeled. Awesome. And narrows the pharynx to aid swallowing, so that's this one, because you need the top, middle, bottom, so that it goes all the way down, right? Inferior constrictor, down here, we talked about that, that's the one that makes your larynx go up. No muscles actually open the throat, okay? So when somebody tells you that you have to have an open throat, you can't actually open your throat with any of your muscles.
It's a lack of muscle.
It's a lack of muscle constriction.
Okay.
So relaxing the throat rather than physically opening it.
Yeah. Okay. That's an important thing to learn from the physiology.
Is it that we're so used to using them that not using them seems like some sort of muscular effort?
Probably.
It's also, we also tend to use too much muscle tension, you know? This is like getting probably too much into pedagogy, but we can't open our throat with any of our muscles. We only constrict. I mean, if you think about it, because muscles only contract, right? If we have an open tube that we're trying to maintain, we can't actually open it with anything because everything that's around it contracts it.
And that's like including like burying your tongue way down into your neck, you know, like depressing your larynx with your tongue. You know what I'm talking about? People who depress their larynx with,
Yeah, but that doesn't open your throat.
it just gives the illusion that it's open.
Because we think that this sound is open
Right, yeah.
for whatever reason. It feels more, right. Okay, but physically you can't actually open your throat. One opens your esophagus to swallow, and it's small. Okay, and having an open throat is actually doing nothing. Okay,
What does that mean?
what do you mean?
We were just like.
Which part?
Never mind.
That's okay. I can clarify.
It's okay.
Do you know what I mean? So none of the muscles open your throat.
Yeah.
You got it, Chelsea?
Uh-huh.
Cool. All right. So the laryngeal elevators. That's this list. Okay. When we raise the soft palate, it makes us feel like swallowing or yawning. This also raises the larynx, right? So those are laryngeal elevator muscles. They
Yeah.
can raise your larynx too. Okay. As singers, we have to train ourselves to only raise the palate and not our larynx also. So you know how most people when they're like when my dogs yawn, I always like to compare it to my dogs,
It
right?
just starts
Yeah.
very high.
Like that. And they're raising up their larynx a lot because all those muscles are attached. So we have to train ourselves to only raise our palate and not raise our larynx. Okay. Larynx can only be raised through connections to the thyroid or cricoid cartilage or the hyoid bone, right? Because we have to pull up that thing that we just made today. Good. Thyrohyoid muscle. It's this little guy right here. So forget that's our hyoid bone, and this is like under our cheek, right? So it's right in here. So that would be, it's attached to origin, thyroid, because it's in the name, yeah. Insertions in the hyoid. So it pulls the insertion towards the thyroid, lifts the larynx towards the hyoid bone slightly. It actually pulls towards the insertion. This one is backwards. Yeah. Got it. Because it's bone to cartilage. So digastric muscle, Dr. King loves to talk about this one. So these, I went through and relabeled everything in the better stuff, so if you missed it from last class, I know a couple of you were talking about it, you can go back and look at the slides, I put it all in. So it raises the larynx and the lower jaw. So it has two bellies, so there's two parts of it. So that's up here, down here, and up here. That's why it's called digastric. Di is two, gastric, belly.
Two bellies.
What?
Die is two.
Yeah, it's Latin.
What about like bicycle?
Bicycle, that's also two.
Also double.
Dicycle.
It's actually dicycle.
I think we should all start saying dicycle. Okay, so the anterior digastric muscle is the one right up here, right? Because anterior is forward. That opens your jaw. So it's going to pull your jaw back towards your hyoid bone when I flex that one, right? It goes. Okay. That's one of your digastric muscles. You can feel it if you stick your finger in here
I don't like that one.
and open your muscle, open your jaw, you can feel it tense.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sweet. So the posterior one is the mastoid process up here. Insertion in the hyoid bone, that raises the larynx. So that means if we flex both of those, we are raising up our larynx. Can you see it do that on me?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you say that Dr. King loves those?
He loves to talk about the digastric muscle. Have you heard him talk about
He loves
it?
to talk about how he doesn't want any part of this to move. That's what he talks about. But
Because what does it do to the hyoid bone?
It raises it.
raise-
Which
But-
raises the,
What's funny
Yes.
about that is like, okay, so like, you get your soft palate up and you get your larynx down and everything,
mm-hmm,
and your mouth and like this part naturally has to go like
mm-hmm.
like
Mhm.
that. But you're saying that when it does that, you're actually raising your larynx?
Yeah, you can.
You can, but no.
So if you use it too much, right? 'Cause this muscle isn't the only one that opens your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to rely more on some of the other ones. Because this one's attached to the hyoid bone, okay,
So we need to be cognizant of these muscles because they are the greatest contributors to raising the larynx.
yeah, because they're laryngeal elevators, right? So if you flex really hard when you open your jaw, you can feel your larynx go up, right?
Yeah, you can't like force it. It has to like happen naturally. Sorry.
Well,
I'm
no, you can feel, okay, so like try to force it, like put your hand here and then try to force it and go. You can feel it go up, right?
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about when he doesn't. That's the bad part, so that's the extreme part,
Yeah. We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
We don't want to overdo it.
right?
Got it.
Because we mess up our larynx.
Because like we naturally have to do it, but we can overdo it.
Right.
That's when there's
Yep,
it's a problem.
yep.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everybody else?
What?
Okay, I'm not trying to make this Dr. King central today. Alright, Posterior digastric, so that's the one that can raise our. It tenses the jaw and raises the larynx. There's only one way to pull and the mouth shut, and flexing the larynx. Like if you keep it shut and go, and try to move your larynx, then you're using those muscles. Yep. Good. Stylohyoid, so that's going to be in the styloid process to the hyoid bone, right? The styloid process is back up here, and goes to the hyoid bone. I wrote this one wrong. Sorry guys, it's not the origins in the chin. Okay. So that helps in swelling because it elevates the hyoid bone and pulls it towards the posterior. Okay, that's what that one's for. So a lot of this is just kind of listing, like we have all of these muscles that help our larynx raise, that we have to be cognizant of, like there are all these connections that can mess up what we're doing with our voice. Okay, that's why we learn these things. Mylohyoid. Okay, muscular floor of the mouth, but it's like what's underneath here. Okay, if you feel in there. So there's like a million of these, especially when we start talking about the tongue and stuff. It attaches to the chin, along the sides of the mandible, and to the hyoid bone. So if it makes a circle all the way around here. So there's hyoid bone down here, sides of your mandible here, and your chin up here. Right? And so if we flex that, it makes the hyoid bone move, which raises our larynx. Attaches, okay, when flexed, raises the hyoid bone, stiffens the floor of the mouth, and depresses the jaw. It's kind of the same thing we were talking about in the diaphragm, because it's kind of attached in the same place, there's just another part of it there. Okay? How are we doing on time?
10:30.
Oh, we're not gonna finish, guys, sorry. We'll try though. Geniohyoid, this is one of the tongue muscles. Origins in the chin, insertions in the hyoid bone back here, right? This is our tongue, that's your teeth. Lips are right here. Well, okay, just remember, that's how big your tongue is compared to the size of your mouth. Yeah, it's huge. Okay. It's really, really big. It's kind of the same as the mylohyoid, but it doesn't fan out. It's more of a straight muscle. Okay? Depresses jaw, raises the hyoid. So just remember, if I'm going to show you pictures of these, you should be able to identify where they are. And I'll give you ones where it's like, I won't give you this picture and be like, where's the geniohyoid? Okay.
Why is that circle?
Right here?
Oh, yeah, never mind.
Because that's the geniohyoid.
I thought you were talking about the tongue. So.
No, well, it's part of the tongue because it's the floor of the mouth, right?
Gotcha.
Hyoglossus. So this is the hyoid bone and the base of the tongue, right here. So this tongue stuff, we're not talking about those muscles yet. But this is the one that goes from the hyoid bone down here and up here. Like this is a good example of a picture that I would have you label. Okay. I'm just saying. When coupled with the muscles of antagonism, it raises the hyoid bone.
Why does it say glossus? Hyoid, I get because hyoid.
Glossus means tongue.
Oh, okay. Perfect. So it means hyoid too.
The tongue. Yep. Yep. All good? Tommy Glass.
Yes, sir.
Genioglossus. So this was the hyoglossus over here. This is this one. So it's the chin to the base of the tongue.
And genio, I'm assuming, is chin.
Yep. It's up here. When paired with the antagonizers, it raises the hyoid bone. So if we flex this and we flex our, it'll pull the hyoglossus muscle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this one sticks out our tongue, like that, because we're pulling the tongue forward towards the chin, right? If we do that hard enough, it pulls on the hyoglossus, which is also connected to the hyoid bone. So by sticking your tongue out really far, you raise your larynx. Can you all feel that happen?
Uh-huh.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to know. Good. So these are the depressors. Let's see if we can get through it. There's only 3. Sternothyroid, sternohyoid, and omohyoid. Okay, sternothyroid. So because we're going to depress the larynx, pushing it down, these are all going to be below the hyoid bone, right?
Right on.
That's a good way to remember. So origin of the sternothyroid is in the sternum, down here, and the thyroid, up here. It pulls the larynx towards the chest, ideally not active in singing. Laryngeal depressors should be passive and not active. Too much antagonistic tension, right? So we don't want to be like pulling down on our larynx and pulling up on it, like trying to make up for it. We just want to leave it chill. Yeah? Cool. We all get that one? Awesome. And you can see these are in the Netter's book. The pictures for these are kind of confusing. just so you know. But there's a really good one. There's this awesome graph that shows where all of these pull, and it doesn't show any of the muscles, it just shows this thing just shows your bones and everything, and it shows like a line that shows what the muscle actually pulls on, rather than showing the muscle and making it really. So this one's really good to look at, to know what they all do, okay? Alright, so we got that one. Sternohyoid. This is the one, so it's going to go from the sternum to the hyoid bone. So the other one, sternothyroid, went to the thyroid. This one goes to the hyoid bone. Okay? Pulls hyoid towards the chest, right? Depress the larynx. Omohyoid, this one goes from the shoulder, which is omo, over here, and it goes all the way up to your hyoid bone. Actually, so when you do that, you flex your neck really hard. You know, we've all seen people that sing with all kinds of like neck tension. You're probably actually like pulling your larynx down some really bad. Which also means that then to make it your voice sound like your voice, you're also having to pull it back up, so you have all this tension on your larynx. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Let me see how many I got left. Alright, 2 minutes. Laryngeal position. So it changes with age. We're talking about where our larynx is in our throat, okay? So at birth, it's really at about like C3 over here. In adulthood, it's like all the way down to C7. It's really low.
And by adulthood, you mean 30 or whenever adolescence?
When your body has gotten to the position it's supposed to be. So you guys we're at adulthood.
Oh,
Okay. But you know what I mean? So babies have like a shorter vocal tract and adults have a longer one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. High larynx are brighter sounds, low larynx are darker sounds, so we get the lower formants, right? Formants are down lower, up higher.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Most larynx should be where it rests or lower than singing. So right, you always say your larynx should be where it's just is at rest when we're singing.
Yeah.
You've heard that before? Everybody? And it also, what's up? Okay. Okay. And then, so when you breathe in, your larynx goes down, right? Does everybody feel that? If you breathe in, feel it go down?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. This is why, because of tracheal pull. So when the larynx lowers, when we breathe in, the diaphragm engages, it pulls all the musculature up to the hyoid bone and causes the larynx to descend, right? So if we go to this, because all of it's connected, we're actually pulling down on the larynx with our diaphragm. Okay? That's why it goes down. But McCoy says this is the way why the larynx should be lower than resting and singing, but like you only do that during inspiration, so I feel like there's like a recoil that happens. That was just my opinion about that. Okay. Technical adjustments should be millimeters, not centimeters. All these muscles we're talking about are really not that big. You know, so if we're talking about this one, it's only that big.
So like when you say that you sing with the high larynx or your larynx shoots up, then it's really only like the difference of that much.
Probably.
Oh wow.
But we saw how big of a difference in wavelength for like acoustical resonance that is when we move it that much.
Right.
That will change you from a baritone into a tenor.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So the nerves, oh man, we will talk about this next time.
Thank you.
There's only 2 more. Yep. Thanks guys. So next time we'll review and finish talking about the nerve things, and then we'll review on Tuesday again, and then we'll have the test on Thursday. Cool? Awesome.
That is so funny.